"You won't live here anymore," Sandra said. "But you'll keep paying." My stepmother smiled like she'd signed a deed. I'm Lena Carter, 30 years old, and that was my eviction notice. I stared at the beige walls she painted. Mom's blue was buried under primer. I'd paid the taxes for years. Kept the house out of a tax sale. Heavied envelopes, county stamps, quiet receipts. I thought I was protecting my mother's rooms. Turns out, I was funding Sandra's kingdom. That night, I opened the ledger. Then I closed my wallet. No more payments, no more saving them. Penalties would speak louder than I could. Weeks later, the notices stacked like bricks. Neighbors started whispering. Dad started calling. Sandra started yelling about loyalty. I packed one box and left. I stopped paying. The truth sent the bill. Before we start, tell me where you're watching from, city, state, or country. Echoes of Life reads every quiet comment. Mom died when I was 19. The house stayed full, but the air emptied. Dad sat in the dark for weeks, TV off, cup in hand. Mail piled up, bills, notices, red stamps. I found 3 years of unpaid property taxes. He just said, "Your mom handled that stuff." So I handled it. Late nights, calculator, kitchen table, takeout boxes. Every receipt kept the house from slipping into auction. I told myself I was saving what she loved most. But grief has interest rates, and I was paying both. Then Sandra arrived. A grocery store meet cute. 2 teenagers, loud shoes, louder opinions. Within weeks, her voice replaced silence. Mom's photos boxed up. The soft blue walls went beige. She said it felt lighter. I said nothing. I'd learned silence was cheaper than fights. The day she wore Mom's bracelet, my silence cracked. "That's not yours," I said. She smiled. "It fits me better." Dad looked away. He always did. A week later, stories twisted and roles reversed. He believed her version. He pointed me to the door. And in that moment, it was clear. I wasn't his daughter anymore. I was the tenant funding his denial. That night, I packed quietly. Took Mom's jewelry box and one photograph. Left the lights on for ghosts that never left. Next came the quiet work. Ledgers, notices, and a plan. I didn't argue. I documented. The next morning, I sat at a borrowed desk in my friend's spare room. Receipts, envelopes, and county notices spread out like evidence. Every payment I'd made, logged by date and check number. 3 years of late fees I'd cleared myself, for nothing. The new bills kept arriving. Addressed to my father. Unopened. Ignored. The balance grew until the county attached penalties. That was when I realized silence had become its own invoice. I wasn't saving anyone anymore. I was sponsoring their collapse. I printed copies of everything. Proof of taxes, liens, property ledgers, even my own bank withdrawals. Then I built a binder labeled Carter Residence /2018-2024. Paid in full, by Lena. The title felt like closure written in black ink. I added a contents page and exhibit tabs. Every exhibit had dates and amounts. When Dad finally called, his tone was flat. "Sandra says the county sent something." "They did," I said. "It's called a bill." He exhaled hard. "Can you just handle it like before?" "No," I said. "This time it's yours." Days later, my uncle called. He'd seen the notice too. Said, "She's blaming you for everything." I told him, "Then at least she's accurate once." I texted him photos of the running balance. He didn't reply for a while. Meanwhile, I started researching what would happen next. Delinquent taxes meant public record. Public record meant sale. I checked the county schedule for spring auctions. If they didn't pay, the house would go on that list. Title would carry liens until cleared. Interest would keep growing by the month. Not my problem, not my address, but still my history. I talked to a lawyer about another matter. Dad's car. The title was joint, mine and his. Sandra had taken it when she left. The attorney called it unlawful possession of shared property. He drafted a simple plan. File a replevin claim, recover, liquidate, close the loop. We gathered the purchase contract and registration. I pulled bank records showing my earlier payments. Clean, legal, final. That night, I looked over everything I'd built. Proof of payment. Proof of silence. Proof of being done. For years, I'd been the quiet accountant of everyone else's mistakes. Now the math was simple. Subtract myself. When Dad called again, I didn't pick up. I didn't need another conversation. I needed a clean ledger. Ledgers don't take sides. They just balance. Next came the knock I'd been waiting for. Not from him, but from the county. If this were your family, what would you do? Comment 1 to keep peace quietly. Comment 2 to ask for proof even in public. Echoes of Life is listening. The letter arrived by certified mail on a Tuesday. County Treasurer, bold header, deadline circled in red. Amount due, penalties listed, Interest still accruing monthly. Failure to pay would trigger publication and sale. I read it twice and set it down. Silence finally had math behind it. 3 days later, a notice appeared on the door. Delinquent taxes, parcel number, auction window, contact information. Neighbors slowed as they walked past our mailbox. Mr. Green nodded once, then looked away. News travels faster than envelopes on our street. Dad called, speaking like a man underwater. Sandra says this is harassment, he began. It's a bill, I said, keeping my voice even. Harassment ends when balances end. He asked if I could handle it like before. No, I answered. That era is over. Sandra texted me that evening from an unknown number. You're ruining your father's life, her message started. Real families cover each other's obligations. I replied with a photo of the notice. Obligations come with signatures, I wrote back. She didn't respond again. By Friday, a second envelope arrived from the county. This one listed the spring auction calendar. Dates, locations, and payment instructions printed cleanly. The house sat between 2 apartment complexes on the list. I highlighted our line with a thin pen. Evelyn, my aunt, called after dinner for context. She says you abandoned them, she reported gently. I stopped underwriting them, I said. There's a difference, paper can show it. I sent her scans of my earlier receipts. She read in silence, then whispered, I didn't know. Sandra tried a different angle the next week. She claimed half the house through a quick message. Improvements, she typed, and marital contributions. I forwarded her note to my uncle. He asked one question. Does the math even support that? I opened the ledger and answered simply, no. Penalties kept stacking, then a lien appeared. Title reflected it by month's end. Agents stopped returning Dad's messages about refinancing. The appraisal came in under outstanding obligations. Equity had turned theoretical, then negative. The house wasn't an asset anymore. It was a file folder with past due tabs. Police visited once for a noise complaint. No report, just a quiet conversation on the porch. After they left, the block returned to whispers. I stayed in my apartment and updated my binder. Added the lien notice, updated the running balance. Numbers replaced arguments better than any speech. Dad asked to meet at a diner. He looked smaller under the fluorescent lights. I can't fix this, he admitted softly. I can help sell, I said. Before the county sells for you. He didn't answer, but he didn't refuse. Sandra messaged again. You still owe loyalty. I replied with 3 words. Show me contracts. She blocked my number 10 minutes later. The listing went live on a Monday. Asking price reflected liens and repairs honestly. 2 investors toured, then passed politely. The third offered within a week, as is. Enough to clear penalties and repay my uncle. Not enough to rescue a story. The county knocked louder than I ever could. I answered with filings. I filed the Rep Levine on a Monday morning. Title showed joint ownership, mine and Dad's. Registration matched the financing documents and signatures. Sandra had the car without my consent. My attorney called it simple and clean. Recover, liquidate, close the loop, he said. The hearing lasted 20 minutes. Her lawyer argued she was the primary driver. My bank records answered without adjectives. I'd covered payments when Dad couldn't. The judge signed the order that afternoon. Return within 7 days or pay damages. Deputies located the car 2 counties over, parked outside an apartment with unfamiliar mailboxes. We took possession without a scene. I photographed the odometer and body panels, documented dings inside and out. Then I listed it for sale, as is. The wire hit my account on Thursday. I moved the funds into a separate ledger. Taxes, lien attorney, towing, filing, sale costs. Every line item reconciled against receipts. I closed the automotive chapter without ceremony. Meanwhile, the house listing gathered quiet attention. Investors walked through with flat voices. Roof, plumbing, interior, one said, taking notes. Offers arrived, each tied to repair budgets. We accepted the cleanest as his number. Closing required a longer stack of documents. Title search, lien payoff, prorated taxes, utilities, disclosures. I reviewed every page line by line. No surprises, no missing signatures. Funds routed to the county first, then my uncle. What remained fit on one small check. Dad stared at the closing statement. He looked older than the numbers suggested. I didn't know it could fall this fast. It didn't, I said. It fell slowly while others paid. He folded the statement and said nothing. The keys changed hands on a gray morning. No speeches, no final tour. Just a lock, a pen, a receipt. Outside, I felt the air again. Lighter, but not joyful. Administrative, like finishing a long exam. That night, I wrote my rules. Short, visible, enforceable without drama. Respect before contact. Consent before access. Proof before claims. No loans, no gifts, no pressure. Written apologies, not hallway confrontations. Therapy before any reconciliation conversations. Everything else is distance. Everything else is quiet. Dad asked to meet once more. We chose a bright table by a window. I am sorry, he said carefully. I heard you, I answered evenly. That's different from believing you. He nodded and didn't argue. I emailed him 2 documents that evening. A copy of the rules dated and signed. A summary ledger for house and car. Balances, payoffs, and final receipts attached. He replied with one sentence. Thank you for the clarity. I closed the binder and put it away. Not victory. Completion. I didn't start a fire. I stopped being kindling. I didn't punish them. I removed my subsidy. The condo was small and the quiet fit. Dad called sometimes about weather and groceries. No requests, no emergencies, just updates. I didn't go back to the old street. A friend sent a photo of fresh paint, different color and a new porch light. I saved it and archived the thread. Uncle stopped by with a toolbox. We fixed a cabinet without mentioning history. He left with leftovers and a schedule. Call me if anything rattles, he said. I opened Mom's jewelry box on Sunday. The hinge creaked like a familiar door. I cleaned the bracelet with a soft cloth. Put the beach photo in a new sleeve. Frame, label, date. My kind of memorial. At work, I chose calmer projects. I ate outside and walked home slowly. Days felt like receipts for rest. Peace wasn't dramatic. It was regular. On time. Balanced. Predictable. Dad texted a longer message one evening. I'm trying, he wrote. Thanks for clarity. I answered with 2 words. Stay consistent. He replied with a thumbs up and a grocery list. Sandra never reached out after the car. Silence worked better than any reply. I kept the court order in a folder. Paper travels farther than arguments. Sometimes I missed the house we almost kept. Then I remembered who I became afterward. Someone who files, not pleads. Someone who pays herself first. Someone who leaves when asked to fund chaos. I wasn't lucky. I was specific. I wasn't rescued. I recorded. I didn't forgive. I formatted. I didn't look back. I kept the ledger clean. Peace isn't free. I itemized it. If this resonated, please like the video and share it. Subscribe to stay for the next story. Thanks for being with Echoes of Life.